And we're back for episode 11 of Pursuing the Perfect Pint podcast. So a palindrome, getting into the big leagues now there, Brent.
Yeah, I think once we stepped over into double digits, it's next stop is episode 100. But we've got a lot of room to cover. But yeah, it's we're getting there.
And of course, Brent, being the sort of structured people we are, people should know the format by now. But just in case, first up is the global market update, followed by hearing from one of our wonderful Lisbon sponsors, and then someone who's speaking at the conference, and ending with a really interesting malt supply chain story all the way from Patagonia.
Yeah, we've got in the normal fashion, we'll go through everything, but maybe starting with the market update, I'll keep it fairly brief. But we're in the in between here, so working towards next week's journal. So by the time people see this, it'll be a journal week. But the main market ideas we're into the new year, and in the world of barley, prices haven't really done much. Maybe a little bit of an increase up. So we're maybe seeing the post harvest a rally as South American or South Hemisphere crops are over. So we're now seeing this little post-harvest rally, if I call it that. And it's surprising. It's January, and the planting of spring barley in Europe is not so far away. We'll
Oh, wow.
see that in the next month or so. So this cycle is going to kick off again. Winter barley's in the ground, looks pretty good, although we have some cold weather, so we should be watching that a little bit. But the really next big step is getting the spring barley planted in Western Europe, for example, under reasonably good conditions, and we'll have to watch that in the coming, the next 6 to 8 weeks. So the cycle, we have a holiday break, but now we're back from a holiday, and the market is going to start really focused entirely on crop 26 and how is that progressing. In the meantime, demand is still dismal, so I guess most of the story is now on the supply side.
And are you still seeing or expecting plantings to be a lot lower this year, Brent?
We will spring planting in Europe will be down. Uh, there's some forecasts that in the UK, for example, it could be down 20%. I don't
Wow.
subscribe to that entirely. Farmers do plant on a rotation, so I don't think they completely abandon the
Hmm.
rotation. So I think in the end, it won't be that bad. But to your question, it will be down. Spring barley area will be down. Demand is down. Farmers don't see as much malting barley demand off their farms, so they'll either plant feed barley or they'll plant some other crop. So we will see that impact to a degree. Maybe it's not as bad as some forecasts, but it will be. I think it's almost certain it'll be down slightly. So demand has dropped, and a supply will respond. I guess it's a simple
Yep. It's not
theory.
complicated. But also the good thing about these podcasts, Brent, they're now etched in stone. So we can come back to podcast 11 at the end of planting it and revisit what we thought would happen.
Yeah, it's always good. Some people say don't try to forecast the future because you'll always be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think in some ways you have to take some view to what's going on, and by thinking through it, uh, it's always of value to go through and think of what could happen and all the factors
Yeah.
associated.
And
So,
your point around if barley's role in the crop rotation is well made.
yep, I think it's good. Feed barley still remains very strong, so that's the other thing. There's very little difference in crop 25 prices between feed barley and malt. That's a problem because that doesn't send a very good signal to farmers. We've covered that on previous
Yeah.
podcasts, and I think right now, as we look ahead to crop 26, farmers will remember how narrow the
Yep.
premium got in crop 25. Farmers never forget. That
Yeah, yeah.
is the same everywhere in the world. Farmers never forget, and they will be a little apprehensive around how much more barley should they grow when certainly malting barley, when they've seen what's happened recently with very narrow premium for
Yep.
malting barley.
Absolutely. And thinking about Europe and the Northern Hemisphere and planting, Brent, it's quite interesting to see this sponsor we've got coming up, a first time sponsor of the conference.
Yeah, we're very pleased. We got Paul McGillicuddy from Malt Company of Ireland has joined us as he's been to one previous conference, but he liked it so much he's joined on as a sponsor, and we're really pleased to hear him. And he'll talk a little bit around why it's important to him. And I think it's really good to have a a first-time perspective to a sponsor.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're going to turn our attention over to the upcoming Lisbon RMI conference in March. And very pleased to have Paul McGillicuddy here from Malt Company of Ireland, MCI, who's joining us as a sponsor. So I guess my first thing, Paul, a big thank you for MCI being a sponsor and being part of the Lisbon conference. You attended Rome as well, so maybe we could start off by, since you were in Rome and what you saw there, it's led you to be a sponsor. So what was it about the RMI conference that got you thinking that this is where you saw some value?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brent. And look, delighted to be sponsors and delighted to attend again. And I suppose I joined the business, Brent, about 2 years ago. And I suppose it was very important for me that we got plugged into the industry, not just here but globally. We really wanted to understand what was happening, not just with the malting industry, but beyond that, the global brewing and supply chain piece. So that was the initial reason really for attending Rome, and was to get plugged in, to get to know the industry, get to know the people, and understand a bit more of the context. So that was really important. And Rome, gave it to us in spades, to be honest with you. Some good dialogue. But you know yourself, it's always the networking on the sides that is the most valuable. And that's what we got from it. So yeah, delighted to attend Lisbon and looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to say it's 49% insights, what you learn from the speakers and so on, and it's at least 51% networking, that
Yeah,
getting people together
yeah.
and the way we phrase it up, the world malt supply chain under one roof makes it really easy for people to make those connections and so on. So that's good. So yeah, as I said, very pleased, Paul, that you're part of it. I guess as we talked about in preparing for this, it's also a challenging time, and you see that in Ireland as well. You've had
Yeah.
a whiskey reduction in production also. So I guess as we keep talking about it's a very important time to get together, and I guess you're looking at that opportunity as well, given your reality and what you face today.
Yeah, look, it is a challenging time, not uniquely to Ireland or Scotland or Europe or even beyond. Um, but I suppose it's important to see how the industry is responding as well, from my perspective, to see how our own peers are responding, how customers are responding, and I suppose where can we be part of the future developments? Because look, there's no industry can continue growing for 20, 30, 40 years, incrementally. You're going to have a lull, and we're in that lull right now. Um, but that will pass. I think there has been a lot of overstocking, especially on the distilling side of things. That's what we're seeing here. And once that gets corrected, once we return to some level of, consistent growth, then I think it will recover. But look, um, we're all going through the same experience right now, and you got to be realistic about that. Make decisions to deal with it, but also not lose sight of the positive developments that are happening around the zero space. Around diversification and new markets. That's all on the horizon as well. So, yeah, look, I think it's important that we all get in a room or in an event together and understand the challenges, but find solutions to the future as well, because it will recover. But you got to be part of the recovery and not looking at it from the sidelines. That's the
Yep.
key.
Yeah, fully agree. So lots of things to talk about in Lisbon, that's for sure. And for the audience, we're going to do some work to maybe dive in deeper into the MCI story, and we'll do a future malt story around that. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Paul, thanks again for being part of Lisbon, and look forward to seeing you there in March and start all these discussions as we described. So thanks again, and we'll see you in Lisbon.
Thanks a lot, Brent. See you later.
Cheers.
Really interesting, Brent. And I think anyone who's at the conference should catch up with Paul, having come from the dairy industry, or, also very farming, agricultural based, into malt and malting barley. So the parallels and thoughts from that would be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, that's totally true. And in talking, have lots of interactions with Paul, and I think that whole having an idea what goes on in dairy would be important for us within the brewing and distilling world to make sure we're aware of what's happening, and he brings that. So it could be that we see someone from Malt Company of Ireland on stage at a future RMI conference, because I think it would be quite important to bring that food/dairy perspective, because the farmers are actually, in many cases, they're the
The
same farm.
same. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and what they're doing in food is also important for us to be aware from a supply chain perspective. So yeah, Paul's a winner, and we're really glad to have him on board. And I think we could certainly see them bring more to us in their view to food and distilling and brewing.
Absolutely. And then from a first-time sponsor to a Viking, a longer-time supporter of RMI, and to Annika, who's also, I think, previously been a speaker and who will be moderating one of our sessions.
Okay, well, next up, we're going to take a moment to catch up with Annika Wilhelmson from Viking Malt, who has agreed very nicely to be part of the moderating team. So first of all, Annika, thanks for agreeing to be part of the conference in Lisbon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be moderator. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you've got some experience in it. You spoke in Antwerp, and you've obviously attended some of these RMI events. So I guess maybe when you think of the RMI conference, what are some of the things that come to mind for you that are value generating from being part of and attending that event?
I would say the events I've attended have always delivered high quality presentations with a good discussion related to them. So I look forward once again to this time taking the role of the moderator, making sure that the good discussion is delivered to everyone participating. And then in general, it's also an opportunity for networking because you can trust that people will be there. So it's looking forward also to catching up with people from our business.
Yeah, well, the discussion is really important. I often say, 49% of the event is the interactions with people, but 51% of it are the networking. So it's the balance of those two. As moderator, you've got a couple tasks that are specific to that. You got to keep us on time, which I don't
Oh, yes.
don't think will be a problem. But it's what you mentioned. I think the most important is just getting the dialogue on the table, and there's some very important things that we need to talk about. It's quite a challenging time for the industry, but with that, it's also important that we get together. The theme is building a resilient malt supply chain for 2035. So it's all about the decade ahead. And I guess with your background, you'll be able to help us further that discussion as we get together. But you've got lots of experience. I guess there's a few things that probably come to your mind of how we should be thinking about the decade ahead.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good time or interesting times in the sense that we have extremely poor predictability somehow right now. It's the whole geopolitical situation is so hard to predict. We've gone in no time. We've gone from something which was relatively global and open to something which is much more protectionist. And then also the whole sustainability story is also less predictable than before. And then of course the whole climate hasn't changed in the sense that we are still facing crop years with more extreme weather. So I do think this is a time when you really need to sit down together and have a serious discussion that how do we as a whole business tackle this situation and navigate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sustainability, there's lots of challenges, that's for sure. I've often thought of it, and I think it's a big opportunity, at a very high level. I think sustainability could be one of those things that helps us pull out of this challenging time and actually get to a better place. That's part of the reason for putting a theme around, 2035 is a ways off, but it's also there's a lot of work to do to get there, and where would we want to be for a resilient malt supply chain. So I guess this conversation has to start now. You're going to help us do that. So thanks again for being part of it, and really look forward to seeing you in Lisbon and being part of the conference.
Thank you. Likewise. See you there.
And I personally think that's going to be one of the most interesting sessions we're going to be talking about, Brent, how to build resiliency in the decade ahead and, what that means from thinking differently, using AI. I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. And Annika comes with, she's done a lot of work on sustainability and innovation with some of the things that Viking Malt has done. So in terms of thinking differently, she's living that every
Yeah,
day. So to
absolutely.
be able to relate to it and bring that to life and bring out the stories that those presenters are going to have there and make sure the audience really gets the full story. And that's something she'll be fully capable of doing. So really pleased that Annika's agreed and on board. So I think the audience will certainly be steered through that adeptly.
And now, all the way from Scandinavia down to Patagonia. I mean, that would probably be quite a long flight. But Brent, first of all, how did you come across
Well,
Bruno and
yeah,
Berliner Patagonia Brewery?
yeah, this is it's in some ways it's easy, and maybe it's the reason underlying why we do the podcast in the first place. We get in touch through our journeys and our discussions with people. They connect us with people. So in this case, some people I talked to in Argentina at Alea, one of the
Yes.
barley origination groups. So Eugenia and Emmanuel are friends there, and Eugenia had connected me with Bruno and said, Brent will reach out to you. So I reached out to him and we had this discussion, and it was, we'll let the people hear
Yeah.
from themselves. But as you will hear in this, it's got me thinking about my next trip to Argentina will include a little stopover in Patagonia. Okay, I'm really excited that we have got connected. We're going to take a little journey all the way to Argentina, going into the south of Argentina, and I've got connected with Bruno. So Bruno, first of all, thanks for taking some time. And maybe to start, could you introduce to our people who you are and what you do and where you're located?
Bueno, hello to all the lovely community of the beer lovers. And I'm Bruno Ferrari. I'm an Argentine. I lived in Patagonia. I studied as a Braumeister. I got my degree in the VLB Technical Universität in Berlin, 2001, long time ago. And I have my business running. So since this year, we are celebrating the 22 years old of Berlina. And so, it's really something that I love to do. I'm very happy with the gods or the people that they decided on top that they crush me into this lovely way of living. I think it's a very decent way of living, and something that it's like there's no place to reach. It's just the way to go, and I think I will have the next for at least 10 lives. I will continue walking the same path if I could.
Yeah, that's great. I was mentioning to you just when we were preparing for this, I've been to Argentina many times, never down to Patagonia. I've heard wonderful things about it. So it's now on my list. And now that I know a brewer in that area, then we will do. And you said specifically, what's the city that you're located in?
In Bariloche, specifically.
Yeah, very beautiful part of the world. And I guess with your German brewing training, I guess you must have a very nice German Pils or a Helles.
Of course.
Maybe we'll start with that. What's your number one beer? What's your biggest seller when you look at your total beer
A
volume?
Patagonian IPA. That it's an IPA looking England at the beginning, and now of course we forget about the Ken Golding. We lived in 100 kilometers from here. It's the most biggest region of growing hops in Latin America. So we're very happy to have that near. Of course, it's an advantage, apart from the water that it's great here. So it's an IPA that has a little bit of a basic of support of caramel malts. So to give a balance for the hoppy stuff, and we used all Patagonian malts from here, and we put also a little bit of calcium chloride to the and sulfate to the water, so really gets a very bright hops, and that's our flagship.
Yeah,
We are
very good.
we have 17 bars through the whole country. So some they're our own, some they're franchising, and in all the bars we have 10 different types of beers. But the most selling one is the IPA, and then also VLB lager that we call it. That it's a traditional German pils.
Yeah, very sessionable. So it's easy. You can have two without any problem.
Yes, of course, more than two. That's the
More
idea. Drinkability and balance is the clue of the German style that I respect them a lot, and I think that's the clue of the beer is to have the opportunity and to be available of really um, have lots.
yeah. Back to the IPA, you said you've got some caramel malt in there. So does it have a slightly darker color or a little more body
Reddish.
to it?
Yes, exactly. It has a little of reddish color. Has a little of caramel 30 and caramel 60. But it's of course the color gets a little more interesting, but the most important thing for me is so to give no harsh at all to the hops and to be really drinkable.
Yeah. What's the bitterness units on the hops? How hoppy is it?
63 IBU.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely an IPA.
Yes.
Well, a lot of our audience that we talk to and what we do in our world is, of course, malt related. So I guess, do you make a heavier beer? Do you have anything like an amber or a stout even as much?
Y-
Where are you on
yeah.
the high malt inclusion scale?
One of the favorite, we have four beers that are always the whole year in the bar. Then the other ones, there are six other taps. They are seasonal beers, but four that are stable the whole time of the year. It's a golden ale, the VLB or the golden, an IPA, an old ale, and a stout. The old ale, it's really a malty one. It's I think it's one of the most beers with more medals in the whole Latin America tournaments. Um, and she's in a basic of six caramel malts. It's much more liquorous, and it's something that the people they love it when they want something malty. It's the option in our house.
Yeah, sounds really good. Well, golden ale, the VLB Pilsner, you got the IPA, you got a stout, you've got a nice range. Maybe when we think about what you see from your beer drinker consumer, what are they thinking about? Because IPA isn't new. So are you seeing that of course, your volumes are speaking well. So IPA is still strong, or do you see some shifts? Are people moving to more lagers and that style? You are seeing that movement a little bit?
Yes, of course. There are people. What I'm seeing here is that people they want simple things to drink. That doesn't mean easy, but simple, like with clear notes. I think that the double IPA, the Imperial IPA, we have, of course, but it's not something that there's some like you have two big columns. One is like the beer geeks or the freaks of the beer that they're really looking into sours, and we all have to give those tendency. But most of the people they're loving the lagers that they what they like. Of course, lagers, but with a little different hint of the industrial one, with a little more nose, with some sulfurous more notice, fresh beer, and I want to work a little in the recipe, and then IPAs that they're easy to drink, not
Yeah.
not full mouthing, full mouthfulness. I think it's a little bit like getting out of the way in this moment. Still, there's some people that like it, but people like they're looking much more easier beers with not so many complex, like with not so many things in it, and things that they are like. I think we're going back, like that it always like a turn in the world. We already
Yeah.
was everything too heavy, so starts again now to be again what people wants of beer has to be something more gold, more easy, and more drinkable.
Yeah. And there's a long history of that, of course, in Argentina, in many countries, right, where lager beer is very well established, and people have drank that for decades. To your point, they moved into some other things, but now maybe what you're saying is they're coming back around in this cycle and back to those easy drinking and so on. And I guess that easy, lighter beers, easy drinking goes well with asada, which you mentioned as we were preparing for that. So in terms of the food pairing, I guess, do you see that those lighter beers have a good fit for some of the natural food selections that you have in Argentina?
See, both they all for me they shoot all the time. Of course, that for the meat, there's nothing better than a red wine, but still, I'm as a beer lover.
Yeah.
But there's always lots of moments in an asado. The asado is a huge ceremony and has lots of stage. It's not just to sit and eat. So all the beginning it's great for beer, and all the end also is great for beer. So beer is always a place in our table. And I
Yeah.
think that the consumer now, of course, as is happening in the whole world, that they are looking like for the healthy things. And I think the beer is healthy. I'm no doubt about that. Um, but they're looking the non-alcoholic beers, and I think that that's also a trendy, because I think that the beer is if it has something that is good, is the spirit that it has on it, and that spirit is really what gives you love to your soul, and that love to your soul is the spirit. It's not ethanol, and that's the alcohol we need for our spirit.
No, that's a great point. And just, yeah, non-alcohol is growing, I guess. Where are you? Do you have a non-alcohol product that you're
I
producing?
resist. I
It's
resist.
you're not going to go that direction, but maybe someday
No.
you'll have to rethink it. No?
They want me to rethink it, of course, but I think that if you want something like that, you can have a great juice or a great glass of water, and has
Yeah.
more spirit, and it's not something that pretends to be something that it doesn't. It has the soul that what a beer means. And for seeing that example here in Argentina, 2017 more or less was like the boom, no? And the most selling beer in the whole industry of craft was the honey beer in Argentina. Incredible, but that was like that. And I resisted until these days. I never made a honey beer. I think that that the fermentable sugars has to come for in the nature of the malt, and I I could survive to that war. So I think I'm ready for the war of the non-alcohol beer.
Yeah. Well, but you're trained in Germany, so you do the purity law is in your soul, as you say. So you
Yes.
you kind of you come back to that, which is good. I'm a lager drinker, so I think your VLB lager would be my first choice and my last choice. Yes, to your point, there are some occasions for red wine, but our audience is all worried and thinking about the world of malt, and so we're kind of malt focused. So we kind of promote as much as we can beer.
Good.
Non beer does have a malt inclusion, of course. So I guess there are some occasions for that, but yeah, maybe you and I are very similar. We're from a more traditional view in when it
Exactly.
comes to
And
beer.
of course, all my respect, I don't want to be disrespectful to nobody that drinks non-alcoholic beers. It's something that I, as a brewmaster and as owner of a brand, I would like to keep straight in my decision and of what I think that it's beer. Beer has alcohol for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and I are very much aligned. We're in January when we're recording this. I've been on a bit of a protest because I've been protesting against dry January, which many people decide that they would have a month of January without. I I don't think that's the right answer. I think I jokingly say you should eat a salad or go for a walk and still enjoy a beer. You don't need to go to an extreme of avoiding beer. So I think that's kind of where I'm at in that world. Um, maybe back to the consumer a little bit, Bruno. One challenge around the world is beer has got quite expensive to the consumer. So consumers find beer less affordable now than before, and there's been price inflation and so on. How would you look at it in an Argentine point of view? Argentina is going through a massive economic transformation. How does beer fit in that affordability? Is beer still affordable for consumers as you see it?
No, not really. We are suffering a very bad moment. People they cannot go outside. Before, a bar lives. If you go, you have people that go 3, 4 times in a week. No, sometimes for one beer, sometimes for three, sometimes to eat. But that's the way to give life to a bar. And now people they can afford going to the bar like 1 time a month. And the bars now they really have to be very focused in having good food, and because people they don't drink so much, they they can afford. I can see it now in the we have a brewery here. The brewery is a tap room, and we are like we have now that we are in a very high season. We have, for example, like 300 people per day, and before the average was 2.5 beers per per person, and now the average is 0.75 per person. That means that they even share, so to like they go 4 people and they drink 3 beers. So that's really a big problem. We But the cost of producing it's not available to go lower. We already put the margins down, and
Yep.
this goes straight to the economy of the country. If we don't have the again money in the pocket of the people, they can't afford it. I think we will never die because it's part of the human being to get together in a pub and have beers and relax, and it's part of our ceremony. I think that won't die, but in this moment in Argentina we are really suffering uh, that lots of bars
Yeah.
closing. It's not a good moment.
Yeah. Do you think is there any signs of recovery? Is there any signs that it's maybe going to move back to the 2.5 beers, or do you think it's still in that low cycle and it's staying there? Or do you see any signs of recovery?
That's a good question. I was thinking that we already got like to the bottom, but always it's a little bit deeper the bottom.
Yep.
So until now, of course, my idea and my wish is that we already reached the bottom and then it's only going up. But still now we are like the volumes of all the breweries and all. We all have extra spaces. I think it's gonna take at least until July to go and seeing a difference or something happens, because lots of people, they're suffering a lot. They're having a lots of problem to give food to the family. Imagine, don't even think of going for a beer.
Yeah. And that's a global situation. I think it's affordability. That's why I asked that question. I think it's a challenge, and I really agreed with your comment. I think it's well put. I think we're still kind of in the recovery from the pandemic, and it's been much longer than we anticipated. And we did see some initial recovery, but then we kind of fell back into another down move, and we still haven't really recovered. So it's not just you. So I guess I can share it with you that's in all parts of the world. It's the very same thing, which is really a big problem
But
globally. So
the good thing here, I think that it's at least in what we have to do here, it's we have to make the best beer we ever made. So the people that they give a big effort to drink it, it's really to have something that it's really special and will food their soul, but really. And I think that's the moment. So to survive and to be respectable to the people and to be still in love with our profession.
yeah. And if you do all that for them, then they'll come back again, hopefully
Yep,
more often. That's
for
that's
sure.
the idea. Well, that's very interesting. So, Bruno, I guess in wrapping up, our podcast is called "Pursuing the Perfect Pint." So, now I'll ask you the question. So, for Bruno, if you were thinking about a occasion or people to be with or a style of beer, and I was asking you this question, what does the perfect pint look like for you?
Hmm. Well, the perfect pint for me, for sure, is the scenery at the beginning. That the scenery means a very lovely landscape with the nature present beside a fire, and beside people that they are people that you love and people that they are celebrating life. And then the beer has to have, of course, has to have two, yes, of the Blumen, two or three, how you say, fingers of foam. So to have a very, very nice nose, and I would guess an IPA.
Yeah, it's your best. It's your best seller, so that should be part of the answer. So I think that's good. Well, Bruno, thanks very much for taking some time. I promise you that on my next trip to the area of Argentina, I'll make the extra journey further south to your beautiful parts of the world, and I'll try one of those IPAs. How's that?
Great. I wait you here in Berlina, in the Patagonia, you and all the people. It's a pleasure, and hope the world would start getting better in all ways, not only. And I think that drinking a little more of beer would help us.
It always helps. Yep, and yep, and anyone that's in that part of the world can look up Bruno, and we'll share this details on the podcast. So for now, Bruno, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon in your part of the world, Patagonia. All the best.
Pleasure, man.
Cheers.
Take care. Ciao.
I find that really fascinating, Brent, because we're hearing at a sort of macro level about decline in drinking, but that is such a practical example from someone who's right there at the coalface with a consumer, showing the reduction of consumer drinks in an occasion through his pubs.
Yeah, that idea that he's and data is everything, right, Danielle? So we know, and they're tracking how many beers people drank per visit to the pub restaurant, and then we all knew that Argentina's had some difficult economic times and is going through a transformation. So we didn't expect it to be easy. It was a bit shocking to see what degree of drop that is, and I don't think it's that's the unique situation in Argentina, but it's a problem worldwide. Like affordability is a problem. We talked about it on the video. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe gradually things will improve, but it's the main problem facing beer in particular. It's not as affordable as it was, and people are making decisions on that basis. And Bruno gave us a classic example. So I think we could learn something from that. There's no easy answer, but having those discussions, I think, is what it's all about. So we're really pleased. And Bruno, we're coming to your place sometime in the future, so we'll take you up on your invitation.
Maybe that's something we need to do in one of our future podcasts, Brent, is update the, how many hours, days, minutes you have to work to afford a beer in different places, because that really puts it into higher relief, the cost of beer.
Yeah. Well, we could do that. I thought you were going to say we could make a map of where we need to go to travel. Because
that too.
I have to stop in San Diego because we did
yes, of course.
Bountiful Bag and our friends in San Diego, and from there bounce down to Patagonia. So this is going to take some time, but it's the effort that I'm willing to do just to pursue the perfect pint.
Absolutely. And what's up next, Brent? What part of the world are we going to next?
Well, everything right now is focused on Lisbon, but we've got in terms of the podcast, we've got a list. I think a little more South America, just to tease that a little bit. We're working on that, but we've got some people that we're connecting with in the U.S. So I think the Americas would be a strong focus in the next couple of things. And when we get together in Lisbon, since we got people from around the world, we will be catching a lot of people there, and we'll do a lot of face-to-face things. So I'm really looking forward to that. But in the weeks ahead, I think you could expect to see a bit more from an America's, North and South America story.
Sounds really interesting. And look forward to chatting again next week for another episode of Pursuing the Perfect Pint.
Cheers.
Cheers.